Hey guys, today I'm here with a review of the Logitech Keys to Go keyboard and why I think it's the best keyboard for the iPad Pro in 2019. So being an Apple guy, when the iPad Pro got announced last year, I was so quick to go to the store and buy it. And I always want to buy the official accessories that go with it, so I picked up the Apple Pencil 2 and the Smart Keyboard Folio, the official one by Apple. Now don't get me wrong, I really like the Folio keyboard. Yes, it's a little bit weird to type on, but I've had both the original iPad Pros from before, the first and second generation, and so I've got very used to how these feel and the tactile feel of them. However, the old ones, you could paper mache the keyboard out of the way and use it as a stand, whereas you can't do that with this version of the keyboard, and I found that really annoying when I wanted to move the keyboard out of the way to sketch, or when I like sitting and watching YouTube videos or Netflix at night. I don't like having the keyboard there, it's just a personal thing, and so I really wanted to find a way in which I could move the keyboard out of the way. Also, I tend to use my iPad more for sketching and workflows and more drawing, photo editing, filming, that kind of thing, where I don't actually use the keyboard that often, but I like to have a keyboard with me for the small times when I do have to, when I'm designing posters, magazines, etc. So a quick fix that I had for that was actually I bought a really cheap magnetic keyboard from Amazon that's very, very similar. It's basically an identical copy of the official one, which is the exact same as this, except it doesn't have the keyboard on it. And I really, really like it, and it's really thin. It's way thinner than this because obviously it doesn't have a built-in keyboard with a smart connector. And then I tended to use that, could magnetically take it off and then add the Folio keyboard on when I wanted to do the typing. The thing is that actually this in the bag is quite bulky when it's not attached to the iPad, and it's a lot bulkier than you think. So that's where I decided to look for a different keyboard, and that's where the Keys to Go keyboard came in. Now, only 1/4 of an inch thick, it's actually way thinner than the Apple keyboard when put together. Now, even with the keyboard itself, it's still not much thicker, which is super impressive, seeing as this actually has a built-in battery, because this doesn't connect to the iPad smart connector on the back, and instead it uses a micro USB connector to charge. But I've had this now for a couple of months and I've not needed to charge it once, and Logitech on their official website actually state that it should last 3 months without charging, but in my use I think it's going to last much longer than that, because when I press the green battery icon, it's still flashing green, which means that it's still got a pretty decent charge left on it. Now, as long as you don't get the connector wet, it's also waterproof and splash proof, just like the original, the official Apple keyboard, which is great. It doesn't have backlit keys, but neither does the official Apple keyboard. Definitely has a learning curve when typing on this keyboard, as the keys are super mushy, and because it's flat on the top, there's not actually much differentiation between each of the keys, so it does take some getting used to because it's not a full-size keyboard, so the spacing is different than a regular keyboard. Because it is mushy, it's actually very quiet. In fact, you probably won't be able to hear that at all. So there's no clicker keys, which is quite good if you're working in a library or out in the park or in a coffee area and you don't want to be heard. But also a lot of avid typers actually like to have some type of noise feedback or clicky feedback, which this definitely doesn't have. So if you are someone who uses the iPad mainly for typing, if you're emails or writing or a blogger, I don't think I'd recommend this keyboard. Now, where this beats the official iPad Pro keyboard, hands down, is with the addition of this function keys along the top. Now, with using iPad OS, this is perfect, because if you're using the mouse as well, these allow you to basically use a lot of the touch gestures and features that otherwise you'd have to touch the screen to use. So it has the home, opening up all the apps that you currently got open. It has search, has the keyboard switcher for switching to the emoji keyboard or any additional third-party keyboards that you've downloaded. Also has the on-screen keyboard if you wanted to have that for any reason. Now, the camera one doesn't actually work anymore, as it states on here, because the camera actually changed with the iPad Pro, where when you press the button now, it's a different type of buttons for layout for the new iPad. But a way around this is actually if you press the camera button and the volume up button, it does then take a screenshot. Back, play and forward still all work, and the mute, volume up and down work. Bluetooth works, and the battery icon allows you to see how much battery's on it. So the top function keys all still work with iPad OS and making them really super handy, and I would use these more than I would have ever used them before on any of the previous iOSs for the iPad. Now, what I especially love about this keyboard compared to any other keyboards on the market, such as the Bridge or the bigger Logitech Slim Folio case, is the fact that this is just so thin and light, and it's so close to being like the official iPad keyboard, except for the fact that it's detachable. So I can actually put the iPad at a higher angle if I wanted to, so that my posture's a lot better for when typing or sitting at a desk using this. Like I said, also it means that if I'm not actually using this, it's so easy to just put into my bag and keep out the way. It doesn't weigh anything, so it's really, I wouldn't even know if it was in my bag or not really. Now additionally, in the box, it also comes with a little white stand which you can clip to the top of the keyboard, and I think it's meant for the iPhone and not for your iPad, because I definitely wouldn't recommend using it for the iPad. It makes the iPad a little top heavy. But it's a nice addition in the box, and if you're going to use it with your iPhone, then great. And talking of using it with other devices other than the iPad, you can also connect this to the Apple TV. So this means that you could use it for searching for movies on Netflix or for typing in on the App Store or anything like that. But the problem is, I think because it's so thin, I think it's easy to get this lost down the back of your sofa. So I wouldn't really recommend it, especially seeing as actually you can just use your iPhone instead to search if you're in the Apple ecosystem. When you go into a search menu, it'll pop up on the notification on your iPhone. You can just click that and type. So I think that's a lot more convenient than having an additional keyboard, but each their own. Maybe some people like to have a media system or something set up where this could actually be a very viable option for them. So just to keep that in mind, it does also work for the Apple TV. So like I said at the start of this video, I think this is a great device, and I do think it's the best keyboard on the market for the iPad at the moment, especially for the price. I mean, you can get this now for around £40 on offers, or at the top end, when it's not on offer, it's about £55. So it's like a quarter of the price of most other keyboards on the market, so you can't really complain at the flexibility it offers at such a good price. So what are the downsides to this keyboard? Well, there are a couple. As with any product, there's always going to be some downsides. I would say the learning curve of the keys, the fact that they are quite flat, so it's hard to see if you're not used to the keyboard, and the mushy keys are a bit of an issue for me, but not a deal breaker. The use of micro USB instead of USB-C is a little bit disappointing, but this is a 4-year-old keyboard, so I can understand why they would have used that back then, and I'm hoping that in future we might see an update of this keyboard with the USB-C connector. But like I said, I've had this now for a couple of months, and the battery's absolutely amazing, so it's not as if you really need to carry a micro USB cable with you if you didn't want to. So I hope you enjoyed this little short video on the review of the Logitech keyboard. Keys to Go keyboard, like I said, definitely a choice that I would recommend. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. This is a very new channel, so I'm hoping to get more and more of these videos out there for everyone. And if you have any thoughts on what you think your best keyboard is for the iPad or keyboard in general, let us know in the comments below, and let's start building this community. Thank you very much, and see you in the next one.